All set? Great. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Hopkinton Select Board meeting for Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. I am not the chair of the Hopkinton Select Board anymore. However, this evening, both our chair and vice chair are traveling, and so the board needs to set a chair in place for tonight's meeting to make sure everything is recorded properly. Does anybody have any motions they would like to make?
I'll move Brian Hare to be chair for the evening.
In the interest of not moving, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for me to serve as chair for this evening alone and only, correct? Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we're all good with that. All right, moving on. All members participating in the meeting tonight are here and present in the meeting room. The public has the option of attending in person here at Town Hall or via Zoom using the link posted in this meeting's agenda. This meeting is being recorded. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Before we go to item number 2, which is public forum, I want to take a minute and thank a couple of folks that are here with us this evening. Bob Hamilton has been with HCAM and has helped us broadcast these meetings for many, many years. And Bob has decided to move on. And we want to thank him for his years of service. Without him and his colleagues at HCAM, getting this information out to the public would be that much harder. We appreciate all you've done, Bob. We have a card of thanks, and Amy is going to present it to you.
We really appreciate all you do for ensuring transparency in Hopkinton. I just today looked back and watched a 2016 select board meeting, and I could find it so easily on YouTube. It's all indexed. It's perfect.
Thank you, Bob, very much for all your help over the years. Secondly, I want to take a minute and thank Eric Carty, who is here with us this evening. Eric Carty has been with the town of Hopkinton for 40 years. I believe yesterday was the 40th, or was it today is the 40th anniversary? I saw it on LinkedIn. And we want to take a minute and recognize Eric for all his years of service to the town of Hopkinton. Eric, thank you for a job well done. Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll go to item number 2, the public forum. Residents are invited to share ideas, opinions, or ask questions regarding their town government. Is anybody here for public forum? Sir, your name and address, please.
Ken Weissmantel, 145 Ash Street. I'd like to thank HCAM for hosting my presentation on PFAS contamination spread in Hopkinton. I'd also like to thank the hundreds of residents that viewed the presentation. It is still available on HCAM YouTube. I showed it to some of my Mass DEP colleagues, and they were impressed with the investigative work presented. HCAM was very pleased with the number of views that it received, fairly high for a local produced one, and they agreed to produce more of my presentations on my thoughts on how Hopkinton should proceed to provide the town with clean water. So I'll have more than 2 minutes. The next presentation is on determining Hopkinton's future needs for water. Establishing a realistic quantity need for water, not a maximum possible need, defines the engineering and the economic problem that needs to be solved. This presentation is to be aired on June 9th at 7 p.m. One of the recommendations of this presentation is that the Select Board hold a public hearing on the future water needs for Hopkinton. Citizens need to have more input on the end goals as we embark on a very expensive water project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else for public forum? Amy, do we have anyone online by chance?
I didn't join the Zoom.
I'm sorry?
I didn't join the Zoom tonight.
Okay.
So you could ask IT.
Who do we have out for IT? Ben, do you know if anyone's out there for public forum by chance?
Through the chair, I am not seeing anyone with their hand raised.
Great, thank you. All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Item number 3, the consent agenda. There are 5 items in the consent agenda. New employees. The Select Board will consider confirming the town manager's appointments of Cody Dickin as an intermittent laborer at the Department of Public Works for the summer, and Choik Lam Lo as a temporary per diem public health nurse. There's a parade permit for USA Track and Field New England. The Select Board will consider approving a parade permit from USA Track and Field for a road race to be held on July 13th, 2025 from 8 to noon on the Loop Road at the Hopkinton Schools campus on Hayden Row. The intermunicipal agreement revision, the SWAP TRIC Shared Housing Services Office. The Select Board will consider terminating the current Swap Trick Shared Housing Services SHSO intermunicipal agreement and approving a new one, which reflects the departure of Randolph from the original group. The new IMA includes Hopkinton, Medfield, Medway, Milton, Norton, and Sharon. A farmer's market alcohol license, Rushford and Sons Brew House. The Select Board will consider approving Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 15F, farmer's market license for Rushford and Sons Brew House to sell beer at the Hopkinton Farmers Market on Sundays from June 7th to October 5th, 2025. And lastly, to accept a donation, the Select Board will consider accepting a donation of $50 to the Fire Department from Marjorie Butcher and Dana Howe in memory of Don Harris. Does anybody want to break anything out? Just a quick comment that I was at the farmer's market on Sunday. I think it was Saturday? What was it, Saturday? Saturday? Sunday. Okay, it was great. Loved it. It was a lot of fun. All right, so the chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous, and so carries. Great, thank you. Item number 4, a little bit ahead of schedule, but there's no timeline on this, Elaine, correct? Correct. Municipal bond anticipation notes approval and bond issuance approval. Elaine, do you want to introduce this topic for us, please?
Sure. So at a prior meeting, our finance officials were present and talked about how we're borrowing for the new schools and other capital projects. So they're here this evening post the receipt of responses to the town's offering.
All right, hello everybody. Just to introduce, this is Margaret. Margaret works through Fosse, they're a financial advisor. I just think it's important for residents and the Select Board to see, a face to who we work with all the time. So Margaret helps us a lot. She's been with the town of Hopkinton helping us for a very, very long time.
Plus years, yeah, long time.
So she's very well versed with the town. So we just wanted to come back and give an update. The bidding process for both the bond and band are complete. So for the bond, we received 5 bids. The lowest bidder was Fidelity Capital Markets. The net interest rate received is 3.499%. That includes a premium of $744,550.25. And then the band, the bidding process is complete on that also. We received 6 bids. The lowest bidder was Bank of America. The net interest rate received is 3%, and that includes a premium of $777,840. So you'll have your very large packet to sign all of this information. And that's all I have.
All right, questions, comments from the board? Mrs. Ritterbusch.
I don't think I really do. It seems straightforward, and we appreciate you putting all the detail in the packet. These are all projects that have been voted on in past meetings, and they've gone out to bid the correct way. So I don't think I have anything further, but if anyone wants it, I assume it is on your website too.
So through the chair, thank you for the detail here. I appreciate that you took the time within the packet to actually talk about how some of these had converted previously. It can all sound a little bit like magic accounting when you're reading something like this, so I did appreciate that you showed that the path you're advocating for here has been successfully utilized in the town before. Coming new to the board, it was nice to read that and know that I was being asked to do something that has a little bit of a track record here. So thank you for setting me up for success, but more thank you for the level of detail and work that very clearly went into this. And I'm sorry that we borrowed so much and you have to track it all.
CJ, you just mentioned two rates, 3 point something and 3 point something.
Yes.
I don't see those in what we're going to vote, though.
So on what you vote, it's a little complicated because it's showing the interest rates without including the premium. So that's showing the interest rate before premium's considered.
And the premium brings it down.
Premium brings it down, right?
Is that somewhere in the document, though?
So on the official letter that I issued,
Yeah.
it shows the net interest rate and the premium.
Okay.
And then on the bids, it also shows it.
Okay. I'm not questioning anybody. I just want to make sure we get this right.
Yeah.
And are we good with not having it in the motion itself, that the rate is lower based on the premium? Yes. Okay. You good on
That's
that?
the way it's structured.
And you guys are good on that?
Yeah, through the chair, it's associated with our bond rating.
I'm sorry?
It's associated with our S&P rating.
Yeah, you're going too fast. I'm going deaf. What'd you say?
It's associated with our S&P rating. Because of the town's rating, we get a premium
Right.
benefit. Our bond rating is stated. We don't inherently need to claim it here as a new thing. It is a fact based on how we are scored by S&P.
Right. I just want to make sure the rate we're going to pay is what you're talking about and not what we're looking at here.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. All right. So, any other questions, comments? Elaine, you're good? Okay.
I should also note that I think we're extremely thrilled with what we got back for rates
Did
considering
very well considering.
the markets. So
Yes.
that's a good positive to look forward
Yeah,
to.
and that goes to that bond rating that Mr. Kisner
Right.
mentioned. Okay.
Right.
So with that, the chair will entertain a motion to,
Strap in, folks. I move that the maximum useful life of the departmental equipment listed below to be financed with the proceeds of the $736,318 borrowing authorized by the vote of the town pass May 2nd, 2022, Article 25, and excluded from the limitations of Proposition 2.5, so called by a vote of the town to be passed May 16, 2022, Question 1, is hereby determined pursuant to GLC 44, symbol I don't know, 71, to be as follows. Purpose, fire engine, borrowing amount $736,318, maximum useful life 10 years. Further voted that the sale of the $8.855 million general obligation municipal purpose loan of 2025 bonds of the town dated June 10, 2025, henceforth known as the bonds, to Fidelity Capital Markets, a division of National Financial Services LLC, at the price of $9,554,573.46, and accrued interest is hereby approved and confirmed. The bonds shall be payable on June 1st of the years, and the principal amounts and bear interest at the rates respective as follows in the select board packet. Further voted to approve the sale of the $81,025 exactly 4% general obligation bond anticipation notes of the town dated June 10, 2025 and payable June 10, 2026. Henceforth, the notes to B of A Securities Incorporated at par and accrued interest plus a premium of $777,840. Further voted that in connection with the marketing and sale of the bonds, the preparation and distribution of a notice of sale and preliminary official statement dated May 13, 2025, and an official statement dated May 20, 2025, henceforth the official statement, each in such form as may be approved by the town treasurer, be and hereby are ratified, confirmed, approved, and adopted. Further voted that in connection with the marketing and sales of the notes, the preparation and distribution of a notice of sale and preliminary official statement dated May 13, 2025, and final official statement dated May 20, 2025, each in such form as may be approved by the town treasurer, be and hereby are ratified, confirmed, and adopted. Further voted that the bond shall be subject to redemption at the option of the town upon such terms and conditions as are set forth in the official statement. Further voted that the town treasurer and the select board be and hereby are authorized to execute and deliver continuing and significant events disclosure undertaking in compliance with SEC Rule 15C2-12 in such forms as may be approved by bond counsel to the town, which undertaking shall be incorporated by reference in the bonds and notes as applicable for the benefit of the holders of the bonds and notes from time to time. Further voted that we authorize and direct the town treasurer to establish post-issuance federal tax compliance procedures and continuing disclosure procedures in such forms as the town treasurer and bond counsel deem sufficient, or if such procedures are currently in place, to review and update said procedures in order to monitor and maintain the tax-exempt status of the bonds and notes and to comply with the relevant security laws. Further voted that any certificates or documents relating to the bonds and notes, collectively known as the documents, may be executed in several counterparts, each of which shall be regarded as an original and all of which shall constitute one and the same document. Delivery of an executed counterpart of a signature page to a document by electronic mail in a PDF file or by other electronic transmission shall be as effective of a manually executed counterpart signature page to such document. And electronic signatures on any document shall be deemed original signatures for the purpose of the document, and all matters relating thereto have the same legal effect as original signatures, I swear. Further voted that each member of the select board, the town clerk, and the town treasurer be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents as may be determined by them or any of them to be necessary or convenient to carry into effect the provisions of the foregoing votes. I further certify that the votes were taken in a meeting open to the public, that no vote was taken by secret ballot, that a notice stating the place, date, time, and agenda for the meeting, which agenda included the adoption of the above votes, was filed with the town clerk, and a copy thereof posted in a manner conspicuously visible to the public at all hours in or on the municipal building that the office of the town clerk is located, or, if applicable, in with an alternative method of notice prescribed or approved by the Attorney General as set forth in 940 CMR 29.032B, at least 48 hours, not including Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays, prior to the time of the meeting, and remain so posted at the time of the meeting that no deliberations or decision in connection with the sale of the bonds or notes were taken in executive session, all in accordance with GLC.30A, symbol 18-25, as amended.
We have a motion on the table and a second. Thank you, Matt. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous and so carries, which I believe that vote needs to be unanimous. Okay? All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We were ahead of schedule until that motion had to be made.
We really can't just say so moved.
For the bonds, it's a little funky.
It's okay. I get paid by the word. You're not going to like that bill.
All right. The fiscal year 2026 water and sewer rates review. This also not necessarily tied to the time, correct? It's not a public hearing. So, Elaine, do you want to introduce this topic? We're on to item number 5, please.
So the purpose of this meeting is to review the results of the rate studies and hear some recommendations as far as water and sewer rates in advance of the next meeting, at which point you'll hear from the public on the water and sewer rates and vote on it. Tonight it's just hearing information.
Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Eric, for all your service to the community. It's been a long 40 years, and I know you've done it. Seems like 50. Congratulations. That's,
Full head of
that's
hair?
quite a feat. It's not normal in today's world, so good for you to do it all that time. That's great.
Pleasure to serve my hometown.
Excellent. Thank you. Please, go ahead.
So, Eric, ready to introduce Carrie Reed, Director of Public Works.
Matt Abrahams from the Abrahams Group. Good evening.
All right, so Matt has been helping the town for several years with our rate study, so we have a small presentation I think that Matt will give that gives a really good overview and some of the background information, so hopefully it can pop up.
And tonight we'll just be taking a look at where we are, where we're headed, and somebody talk about ideas, but not take a vote, correct? Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Thanks, Matt.
Sure. Okay, so we'll run through the slides for you this evening. We have a few water slides, and then we have sewer slides that are very similar to the water slides that follow that. Overview, I'm going to give a little bit of context of where things stand and also take a quick look at what happened over the last year. So as we know, the MWRA is a hot topic these days. Included in our analysis are all the costs related to the connection of the MWRA. So that's significant construction costs that we're factoring into the analysis over the next 5 years. Eventually, if and when the town connects to the MWRA, the MWRA will assess the town based on water that is used. And we have that as about $2 million annually once that fully hits. Now, that's down the road, but it's within the look that we do for the town, which is now a 10-year look. So it is included in our numbers. Capital plan, we include that every year. It's now an 8-year capital plan, and it contains over $45 million in investment. Some of the MWRA is in there as well, but there are other projects too. Future budget, with all these things factored in, we have the water budget projected to triple over the next 10 years. So the current budget is $2.8 million. And based on all the number crunching that we've done, again, a 10-year look, so we're looking all the way out to FY35, we have the budget as $8.4 million projected at that point. Of course, it's if all these things happen, but that's what we have in our analysis. Next slide, please. Continuing with the overview, this is a focus on what's happened over about the last year. The water fund had a large revenue deficit. There wasn't enough retained earnings available in the water fund to fund capital items that had been authorized. They were later rescinded. A large rate increase was needed to address the revenue deficit and to start to build reserves for long-term expenses, the ones I just mentioned. And as we're aware, the 40% was authorized last year by this board. That increase has accomplished the goals that were laid out here, but more needs to be done. Thinking about those long-term needs that we've already talked about. Next slide, please. So here's a review slide for you. Hopefully you can see it okay. The top table shows what the rate changes have been over the last 9 years, going back to FY17. You can see that the last 3 years there have been significant action for water rates over the last 3 years. Action not as great in the years that preceded that. The leftmost graph is comparing revenues and expenses over the 9 years. The orange line is revenue, the gray line is expenses. The 26 numbers are projected, but you can see that over the last few years, the revenues were falling behind or falling under the expenses, and that has flipped with what we're projecting for FY25. We'll talk about that more momentarily. The rightmost graph shows retained earnings over the 9-year period. The green is actual or certified retained earnings. The blue is what we consider to be the target retained earnings. And you can see that in line with what we see for the revenues and expenses, that retained earnings were well above the target, but then have recently dwindled below. And now we're seeing a rebound because of the projected surplus for FY25. Next slide, please. So quickly reviewing FY25, this is the current fiscal year. It's not yet closed, but we're far enough along that we're pretty comfortable with these projections. We have user charges revenue up over 53% compared to last year. Now we talked about the 40% increase, but there's more in there. So if we think about last summer, especially at the very end of the summer, was very dry. So anyone who cares about their outdoor lawn or their garden may have been watering more than normal during that period. So we think usage did have an impact there. Expenses for 25 we have as $212,000 greater than FY24. It's an 8.8% increase. That's mostly in salaries and other expenses and not tied to debt. The budget for FY25 was balanced without using retained earnings, and as you can see in the table, we're projecting a surplus of over $1 million for FY25. Next slide, please. So looking forward, 26, again, no retained earnings used to balance the budget, although there were retained earnings that were used to fund capital items. It's about $175,000. There were more capital items that were authorized for water than just what you see for that 175, and that came from free cash funding and other funds that have been reallocated or closed out. The borrowed money from free cash is planned to be paid back over the next few years. That's over $500,000. And even with no rate change, we're projecting a surplus for FY26. So the revenues have definitely caught up to the expenses, but still, we think long-term with our analysis, and you'll see more as we move forward here. So next slide, please. Here's a list of some of the items that are in the capital plan. Obviously, the MWRA piece is in there. We have that as $33 million, split into 2 phases. And then you can see all the other projects. So it's definitely a robust plan. There's a lot in there. Carrie has a cleaner version than this, but I did want to include it on the slide so you could see that there's a lot going on here. And what does that mean in terms of debt? So we have projected in these tables, you can see it here, debt service for water. There's an existing line and then there's a new line, which would be debt service that is not currently on the books, but we wanted to project because of what's in the capital plan. So you can see a jump up in FY28. That's when the first phasing for MWRA hits. You can see another jump in FY30. That's when the second phasing hits. So debt, which is currently around $500,000, $600,000, we have going up to over $2 million and then up over $3 million for several years. Next slide, please. Here's our baseline or do nothing. Now, this is not reality, but we do like to show the state of the fund with this slide, but also how far retained earnings, as we currently have them, can sustain the water fund without any additional rate action. And that's what this represents. The blue line is projected retained earnings. The orange is the target. So even without a rate change, we have that retained earnings projection above the target for a few years before it starts to deplete and then ultimately goes negative there. But it can carry the fund through FY29 with no rate action, but not beyond that. And you can see obviously there's a pretty severe drop off without any rate action in these outlying years when the expenses really increase. Next slide, please. Here's the rate plan that was before you last year when the decision was made for 40%. Of course, you're not voting multiple years, but we do include multiple years when we present this to you. So we just wanted to do a quick recap to show you what was in it last year when the 40% was authorized. Next slide. And some options for your consideration. We carried forward that 25% for option 1. So that would be a 25% rate increase for FY26. And then you can see an updated plan going down that table to the left. There's an updated retained earnings graph. This one's showing the impact of rates. So with any increase, really, retained earnings will be well above the target for a few years here before they really start to deplete when those additional expenses come on. So it's really a planning mechanism at this point for those long-term expenses. For the bill impact, we include a few different sample users, but we focus on the average residential user the most. And you can see this is a yearly amount, an increase of about $65 for the average residential's user's bill for the year with the 25%. Next slide, please. And then same slide, but different rate plan. This would be if we're focusing on a level rate increase over 10 years. We have it as 10.5% if it were to be level every year. And that's a $27-ish impact on the average residential user's annual bill. Next slide, please. And option 3, 5%. So this presents a scenario where a rate increase wouldn't be as large for FY26, but that presumably means that it would have to be, the outlying years would have to be greater than what we showed on the prior slides. We have a 5% as a $13 impact to the average residential user. And I believe those are all the water slides. So we can go straight into sewer or we can pause.
Yeah, hang on a second, please.
Okay.
Couple of things.
Yeah.
Elaine, if I were to recuse, we wouldn't have a quorum. So I'm going to stay here unless the board wants me to leave. And I'm not going to comment on specific projects that cost a lot of money.
So, Amy, my stance is we're not voting on anything.
Right, I think it's okay that he stays.
Everybody okay? All right, but can you reflect in the minutes
Just,
that I raised the topic and I'll stay without commenting on any projects?
but it's always the board member's decision. We can't decide for you.
Right, but if it's in the minutes and everyone agrees, I'm okay. Okay? All right, so that's one. 2. Matt, you've got a couple questions.
I do, but I want to make sure, Amy, because I'm going to go for a minute here.
Matt, you got a couple questions. The chair runs the meeting. You got a couple questions.
Okay. So, hi. A couple quick questions for my own clarity. And if you want to jump back to the beginning, I'm going to go through the whole deck. So we're going to be here for a minute. You mentioned that we had a 10-year LRP, or rather the town has a 10-year LRP, but you specifically stated in the slides it was 8. Is there a reason you don't match the town's long-range planning process for capital expenditure?
I think we updated it after, the town's plan that got presented as part of the budgeting process was submitted earlier, and we continuously update ours in water and sewer. So this is the more realistic, working as of today, as opposed to the information that might have been presented as part of the FY26 budgeting process.
Okay, but I can choose to hear that as you do have a 10-year CapEx plan. You are in the process of iterating it right now, but you are, okay, thank you. My concern was there was a disconnect between what this group was doing in terms of long-range planning and what we were expecting from a finance perspective. Can we talk quickly was your Peak and Valley slide, related earning projections with rate changes? I believe it was the second to last or last slide that you showed us. I wanted to better understand what caused the 4-year drop in revenue in the water and sewer enterprise fund prior to FY24 necessitating the rate hike. And specifically here, did we fail to adequately plan for CapEx expenditures associated and deplete our retained earnings? I have a follow-up, but I'd like your response to that first.
Without diving into the numbers, I can't specifically comment, but just generally, I just think that revenues weren't keeping up with expenses. So maybe rate action wasn't as high as it could have been.
So this is the question I'm then going to ask in response to that. What fundamental changes to our ways of work and process are you proposing as a corrective action to ensure that we don't end here again? The slide that you showed me had us at FY 2035 ending with no retained earnings again. I'm kicking the can for 10 years. I don't want to kick the can for 10 years. What are your new ways of work, and what are you going to do to balance the budget and make this sustainable?
I mean, that's why we're coming before you with the recommendations of the rate changes. As you saw in the initial slide, the rates have been low. They were probably low for a while with not a lot of capital planning and not a huge amount of investment. And then the town got hit with some huge regulatory requirements like PFAS that we had to respond to very quickly that drove up costs. So some of it is, instead of planning and operating based on exactly what we know today, doing a better job of projecting what we need and having a better capital plan and investing more in our infrastructure as opposed to just waiting for everything to break and then investing in it. I think there was a philosophy, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was kind of like, well, what do we absolutely need to do right now? And you can't really do that with water because once it breaks, it's a little bit too late to actually fix it. So we are trying to take a more proactive approach, and that's why you're seeing a lot more in the capital plan based on our asset management plan and some of the other planning efforts to try to get ahead of it.
Thank you. I would love to see a plan come before this board that is not just a 10-year can kick. Last question for me. Are we thinking about tying future CapEx to rate increase as a one-to-one? You've essentially postulated to me that a series of unanticipated capital expenditures resulted in a depletion of the retained earnings and the diminished revenue in the fund. I'd love to better understand again what countermeasures you're proposing to this. One would think that tying future CapEx expenses directly to a rate increase would prevent an instance of this from occurring again. Would you agree?
I will not agree or disagree. I will say that our role in Public Works is to tell you how much money we need, and the charter sets it up that the select board decides what the rates are, and sometimes they don't always match.
So through the silent chair here, this is something that I'd like us to consider, that as we are evaluating future CapEx expenses in this space, we have clearly demonstrated an inability to maintain this successfully over time. The 10-year preview that we saw, or excuse me, retrospective that we saw here shows that we were making what I would consider to be a little bit short-term decision-making, and we're paying for it in the long term here. And still we are investing in recovery. Seeing the money you were talking about at only $33 million, by the way, I would caution calling that the do-nothing scenario. That isn't a do-nothing scenario. That's us connecting to the MWRA. There are going to be people in town that are sensitive to that. I just want to be respectful of the taxpayers' money here. We're about to spend a lot of money. Water is the singular issue in the town that I'm hearing about right now. I want to make sure we're getting it right, and there's an awful lot of information in this packet to suggest that we don't have the ways of work we need to maintain control here.
All set?
Thank you.
Amy?
Okay, so I wondered about, so we're borrowing from free cash for some projects this year, and so these charts take into account the paying back of the free cash over time?
That's correct.
Okay. And then I wondered if you were taking into account, and maybe you can't, how tariffs might affect the capital projects if we have to buy materials that are being tariffed at a higher amount?
No, that's not considered as part of the cost estimates.
Because we can't know, okay. So these could be higher. Okay. And then when we'll set the rates, I think, in the fall, right? And then will you tell us if you think one of the three options is better than the other? I mean, for me, as a water rate payer, I think that 10% every year is a lot easier to budget for. So I think that sounds probably like the best plan. And as we get into it, if things are costing more, we can always increase it a little bit as we go. We can change it every year. And then, and then just, I don't think I saw this in the capital plans, but we're switching to the types of meters that people, right now we only get our meter read every 6 months, which makes it hard for people to realize when they have a leak or to budget accordingly to realize how much water they're using in the summer, for example. Is that one of the capital projects or not yet?
That would be an operational cost. It is not a capital project. So if we have higher rates and have higher revenue and we get more funding in our operating costs, then we will start rolling out those projects in a more proactive and aggressive manner. But that was not the budgeting message that we were giving for FY26, so it is not currently planned in an aggressive manner.
Okay, but not even in the long term, okay.
Yeah, in the long term, love to do it. Give us all the funding, we'll do it.
Okay. I think that is all I had for questions, yeah.
All set? Have you guys bounced the rates for water off of the Water and Sewer Advisory Board yet?
Yes, we have.
And what was their general consensus?
They have a presentation this evening.
I'm sorry?
They have a presentation this evening.
They have a presentation this evening, so that's coming up next? Oh, is that in the same thing here?
Yes, yep.
I'm sorry, hang on.
Yep, they're next, I think.
Okay, all right, got it. Perfect. Okay, then we'll get to that then. Good, I'm good, thank you.
Through the chair, can I make a comment before we move on to sewer, which I'm assuming we're doing? Also in your packet was the recommendation that comes from DPW, and we spoke with the chief financial officer and the town manager. So our recommendation is the option with the 25% increase. Because we already saw, as you know, from the void capital issues, like a significant issue. So we are encouraging, like we came last year, you do the investment now. One of the things that, and I'll speak for a CFO, she's not here right now. One of the things that we were cognizant of is this tax increase coming. So if we push this down the road and we have to increase rates later, it might come up around the same time where we think the taxes will come up. So we think that recommendation possibly of increasing them now will provide a little bit more balance, for lack of a better word, knowing that that debt is coming up. We know that's coming.
Okay.
25%.
Any other questions, comments?
So 25% this coming year, but then 7%, which is a lot more palatable. Okay.
Yes, quickly for me, if you want to wait for them, that's okay, but it's known to me that you do not have the same recommendation as them, and I would like to better understand why.
I think we probably should wait for that.
Yep. That was my way of saying, please don't leave. I would like to better understand the contrast.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Sewer, please.
Okay, I'll try and get through these quickly. So back to the slides, please, the sewer slides. Yep, great.
If I could just, interrupt for 1 minute. We have a public hearing at 6:45 that we'll have to take a pause for and open. We have actually 3 public hearings in a row, so we'll have to sort that out as we go here. I'm hoping we can keep this moving. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so Westboro, the town does send sewer flow to Westboro. They are charged for the sewer flow that is sent there. That they are charged for capital improvements that Westboro makes, and Westboro is planning to spend $17 million in additional capital. We've done some projections related to that. We think that's going to start hitting Hopkinton in FY27 at $50,000 to $70,000 per year. Those are expenses that are not currently incurred. Capital plan, again, 8-year look, robust plan that has $10 million in investment, much of which is anticipated to be funded out of retained earnings. The budget is not expected to increase significantly, but we're starting to see that revenues are just not keeping up anymore. And looking outward a little bit, one of the revenue line items is betterment receipts that have been on the books for a long time, meaning they come in annually and have for a long time at currently about $350,000 per year. Those will stop in FY33. Next slide, please. Here's the same 9-year review slide. You can see the last few years for sewer. For action, there was a 2% increase and then multiple years of decreases. And then last year there was no action. And you may recall that back in FY20, there was significant action, as you can see there. But since then, sewer revenues had completely caught up with expenses. And for the last few years, we haven't needed to do anything significant. The left graph shows the revenues in orange compared to the expenses in gray. You can see that it finally has flipped, meaning that revenues are no longer keeping up with expenses, and the retained earnings have grown a significant amount over the last few years, but are now starting to head down the opposite direction. Next slide. Here's 25 in review. User charge revenue up over 10%. That's without a rate increase. So it must be tied to the usage I talked about earlier and maybe something to do with the South Street properties. The expenses we had going down compared to the prior year. No retained earnings used to balance the budget, but $650,000 of retained earnings were used to fund capital, and we have a small projected surplus for FY25. Next slide. Here's 26. About $467,000 in retained earnings are planned to fund capital items. And again, there are other funds being reallocated, closed out, that can offset some of those costs. That's in addition to the 467. And for a projection, this is without any rate change, we have a projected deficit of just over $350,000 for FY26. Next slide. Here's the capital plan slide. I don't feel like we need to get into these too much, but just want to show you that there's a lot in there. Just like on the water side, the dollars aren't quite as high, but a lot of projects and a lot of equipment in here. And here's the same debt service projection table, not nearly the impact of water, but we did want to mention that we are including the Westboro costs in here because it is carried on the debt line in the town's books. So right now it's about $800,000 in debt. It's going to go up over $1 million with our projections, and the highest point is 1.2 in FY31. Next slide. Here's the baseline, the do nothing. Do nothing in this case would mean no rate action, not that nothing's happening, just no rate action for clarification. So we have, in this case, we're just trying to focus on how far retained earnings can carry the fund with no rate action. We have it through FY26, but not beyond that. And of course, with no rate action, we have it completely dwindling over the long term. Next slide. Here's the plan that was the recommendation last year that this board chose to not take rate action, but we just wanted you to see what the recommendation was. So we were we were proposing a 5% last year, and this board proposed 0 and approved that. Next slide. And this slide, same slide as the water slide. Here's rate option 1, 7.5% for 26. You can see the updated retained earnings graph. We think that there's going to be a need for a few years of rate action where in the outlying years, revenues again would catch up under this plan. But just a few years of rate action as proposed in the table on the left. And for the average residential user, we have this as a $32 impact. Next slide. 5% option 2. You do less now, you do more later in theory. A $21 impact to the average residential user. And finally, for option 3, we have a 10%, which would be the level plan. You can see they're the same in all years that we currently believe there would be a need for an increase. And we have this as a $42 impact to the average residential user. And Mr. Chairman, those, I believe, are all the slides we have for you this evening.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Kisner.
Thank you for this. So similar feedback, just all three of these essentially present as a little bit of a yo-yo, and I'm just looking to better understand what the proposal is going to be for long-term sustainability. Right now, it feels a little bit like it's a tax, then react, then tax, then react, and we're going back and forth. And that's not a sustainable plan for us, because ultimately it's susceptible to the political whims of the board here. I'm going to choose not to ask why we didn't fund the recommended rate increase last year. I just caution that I'd like to see a more standard approach here. As a user here, we could very easily take a flat tax or a flat rate approach. You know what your anticipated expense increase is for your operation. You have an idea of what that looks like mapped against your revenue. We could be doing these exercises and communicating very clearly to the town, setting some targets and driving against them. I know a lot of work has gone into this, but it ends up looking capricious because we're ultimately just hitting what feel like arbitrary targets as opposed to tying them towards operation. So that would be my feedback here. This feels like a recovery plan, and I appreciate that you are presenting it. I want to know what the sustainability plan is.
Thank you. Mrs. Ritterbusch.
I think my only comments are on all three options. It looks like the blue line dips below the target retained earnings for all of them. There wouldn't be an option where we would not go below the line? I'm surprised.
We could have put one together, but it would have required higher increases, so we chose to take this approach instead. But with the work that we do for that type of projections, we just want to make sure that the projected is around the target, not necessarily above it.
Right, and the target is 15%, which is a good practice. It's not going in the red.
Correct. Yes. It's not going negative. It's just below the target for a little bit.
Okay.
Yes.
And we can adjust it every year.
Yes, that's correct.
Do
Do you have a recommendation of the three options? Or not yet?
Yes, we do. In our memo, we are recommending 10%, and this is in line with what you'll hear from the Water and Sewer Advisory Board.
Okay, number 3.
Carrie, any concerns with some of that sewer main replacement work and just the general road maintenance and all the other stuff? I'm going to choose to assume that not all of this is happening at a plant that is isolated from town roads and things like that.
No, we are working on taking an integrated approach, so we're definitely trying to do the underground work first and then the roads afterwards, and integrating them so that we're lining up all the plans so that we do all the utilities together to make our dollar stretch the best and to be the least impactful to the residents and the abutters. But it's challenging, and no matter what, these projects take a long time. So if you live next to those projects, it's probably going to be uncomfortable for a while, but that's what happens.
Nope. But I appreciate that you were thinking about the synergy and the sustainability.
Okay. What I'd like to do now is just pause for one moment, please, and allow me to open up the public hearing that's scheduled for 6:45. This is a public hearing following Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 112, all alcohol license application, Concord Brewery, 22 South Street, and common victular license. The Select Board will hold a public hearing on an application for a new Section 12 all alcohol on-premise license for Concord Brewery 2, Incorporated, doing business as Rapscallion, located at 22 South Street. The board will also consider approving a common victular license for the new establishment. With that, the public hearing is open, and we will continue that public hearing to a time in the very near future. You good with that? Okay. So, thank you for the sewer presentation as well. I know a lot of work goes into this, as Matt and others have pointed out, Amy pointed out, but you know, the sewer has generally been a little bit more manageable for us, if you will, than water in recent years. I guess my concern is, more than anything else sitting here this evening, is we won't vote tonight. It's more a procedural thing or a process thing. We put a new advisory board in place this year, and they're not sitting here with them. So I think going forward, if we have a water sewer advisory board and we're getting sewer and water, you know, recommendations, everybody should be at the table, and we should have one conversation specific to how we're going to, you know, tackle these things. I'm not sure why we'd have two different presentations from two different groups when we're all supposed to be trying to work together here. So you have thoughts on that, Elaine?
Nope, something we can work toward next year.
Okay, yeah.
Through the chair, in that same thought, why are we subcontracting to a second or a third party here in this case if we actually have an embedded town function that is providing guidance on water and sewer advisory?
So the Water and Sewer Advisory Board is new. I don't think it's 9, 10 months old at this point. I don't know exactly. And Abrams Group has been here longer than I've been here. So it's been around for a long time. That's a good question, and we can figure that out, but we're not going to solve that here tonight. But I think going forward, whatever we do, whether we have that group or not, I think we should all sit together and have a conversation like we do about other budget things across the general government budget process.
So
Okay.
through the chair, when we voted on the Water Sewer Advisory Board, we did intentionally separate them. So I think that is the reason why it's separate. But anyway, and it was not unanimous to create the Water and Sewer Board.
Okay. Well, it's something I think we just got to figure out, right? Because this is new. It's new for all of us. I get it. It's new for Eric. It's new for Carrie. It's new for the folks back there. They're very new for them because they just got appointed to it. But I think it's, from an organizational behavior, just management perspective, you don't run the business and have half the team sitting over there and half the team sitting over there and they're not talking to each other at a meeting. It doesn't make sense to me as a business guy. Okay. With that, is there anything else you folks want to present tonight?
No.
All good? Okay. You guys good? Matt, you good? Amy, you good? Lane, you good? Lance, you good?
Good.
Okay. All right. I guess next up, we're going to have our colleagues from the Water Sewer Advisory Board join us, and they're going to present a little bit.
Thank you.
And just so everybody knows, it's 6:55. We're going to open the second public hearing, so I may have to interrupt at that time. Gentlemen.
Good evening. Paul Gallagher, Chair of the Water and Sewer Advisory Board. My colleague Don Sutherland beside me.
Welcome, Paul. Welcome, Don. Thanks for coming.
So I'll try and move at some speed here. Our recommendations are for the water rates. Could we have the slides, please?
Here we go. Yep.
Yeah, perfect. So we recommend 10.5% increase for fiscal year 26 on the water side and the 10% for the sewer side. Next slide, please. Just some background on just our impressions on the kind of landscape for the water side. The thing that really jumped out from the Abrams Group presentation is 2.8 million expenses tripling over the next decade to 8.4. It's a big increase. We've been focused a lot on the CapEx. Of that increase, about a little over half is the debt service for the capital, and a good chunk of it, almost half or a little under half, is the increased operating expense. So with that 10-year look this year, we see that the MWRA water is expensive. Our rationale for the, next slide please, for the 10.5%, we're starting with healthy retained earnings, or at least that's the confident projection at end of fiscal 25, and then building from there. And we were looking to kind of build those reserves at a measured pace, not to get too high, and then as the expenses come on, then glide down to, and I think just one point from the previous discussion, on the water side, I think at the end of the decade, it's at the 15% target, which 15% of 8.4 is obviously about triple what 15% today would be. And then the other comment I would flag from this slide is that rate on the water side in FY25 would calculate out at around $1,400, and I'll come back to that at the end of the presentation. Moving on to the sewer, I mean, we landed on the same recommendation as the town. Pretty much the same situation analysis. We're now rapidly depleting retained earnings, and we need to slow that down with some fairly significant increases over the next few years. And we opted for the highest of the three options, the 10%, and then it will be similar levels for the next stage. That does, again, it does dip below in some of the out years before eventually recovering according to that long-range plan, and obviously it's subject to adjustment in future years. And so next slide, please. Next slide after that. So those were our recommendations. I just thought this data was interesting in the context of the $1,400 at end of the decade rate. These are just some rates I calculated for a notional Hopkinton average residential user for some peer towns. So today we're kind of middle of the pack or a little bit below middle of the pack. The range there is 400 to 850 for towns that are in different situations. What's not in the middle of the pack is $1,400, right? So there are several slides that in the interest of time I'm not going to get to, which are our thoughts about the ongoing water system improvement project. Our focus is really on looking at that tripling and seeing, are there options that haven't been fully explored that would help make that somewhat less than tripling. There's no doubt it's going to be a big investment, and there's no doubt that the water will be more expensive on an ongoing basis when we're at the end of this project. But I think there are some options that we haven't fully scoped yet that we're looking at. The one thing I'd mention is that the water that we buy from Ashland probably needs some attention urgently. That agreement will come to its end before the MWRA water is available. So not to jump into next year's rates, not to jump all over the point of the meeting, but just to flag that as something that we want to come back to sooner rather than later.
Okay, great. Paul, if I could interrupt for a minute, please. I need to go ahead and open a public hearing for a grants of location, NSTAR Electric Company doing business as Eversource Energy on Blueberry Lane. The Select Board will hold a public hearing on 3 petitions for grant of location on Blueberry Lane as follows: northwesterly, approximately 1,380 feet south of Ash Street. Southwesterly, I'm just going to touch on what each one of these is. Southwesterly, approximately 1,380 feet south of Ash Street, and westerly, approximately 1,300 feet south of Ash Street. All of those as submitted in the agenda for this evening. So that public hearing is open, and we will continue this one and get into more of the details at a time in the very near future. Please continue.
That was what I intended to say for.
You're good.
I'm good for today.
Okay, great. Thanks. Don, anything you wanted to add?
No. I'm
Okay.
here to give any other questions that you have.
Great. Thanks, guys, for both being here today. Mrs. Ritterbusch.
I guess I am wondering about the Ashland IMA. Are we beginning the process to start negotiating that? See if we
will reach out.
Okay, because that is coming up soon, and sometimes it takes a
Couple of years.
Okay.
All good? Mr. Kisner.
Appreciate the optimism grounded in reality. I like that you were honest about the challenge. This sounded much more grounded in the reality of the numbers and the pragmatism of what we have to do. But I also appreciate that you were very transparent, that you believe that there is still opportunity and options out there, that we have not exhausted what our considerations are. That doesn't mean that there is a perfect solution that isn't going to cost a lot of money. It means that we haven't figured this out yet and we're still working. I think that's a message that's important to emphasize to people in the town. The MWRA connection is starting to feel a little fait accompli, and it is not fait accompli yet. It may well go that way, but we are not there yet. So I appreciate that you were a little more grounded and measured in how we were approaching things. It sounded to me as though the die had not been cast and that you were still looking for options, and I appreciate that that's the approach you were taking.
Well, good. Okay, great, guys. Thank you very much for those recommendations. We're going to have another meeting coming up very soon where we're actually going to take some votes, and I'm sure we'll be in touch about that. Elaine, let's make sure we keep the team involved, and we'll sort out sort of this management question too. Okay? Great, thanks a lot. Thank you all very much, and thanks, Carrie, thanks, Eric, and thanks, Matt, if Matt's still here. Thank you, guys. Okay, so that concludes the discussion on item number 5, which is water and sewer rates. Everybody good to move on? Elaine, you good? Do we move on now? Okay. All right, so we can go back and reopen the public hearing, and the chair can reopen that public hearing, correct, without a vote?
Correct.
Specific to the all alcohol license application for Concord Brewery, 22 South Street, any common victular license. Do we have the proponent here, the applicant here? Sorry? Yes. Please, if you would join us, sir. If you could just state your name and your affiliation with the applicant, please.
My name is Peter Daniel, and owner-operator,
Hi, Peter.
Concord Brewery, Rapscallion.
Great, great. Elaine, do you want to introduce the topic, please?
So this is a new establishment locating where Zio's Quattro was, 22 South Street. And they're here to request the common victualler license and the alcohol license for the restaurant brewery.
Okay. All right, sir, do you want to make a presentation? Anything you want to share?
No, definitely open to questions. We're looking forward to coming to Hopkinton. We hear a lot of good things. We have had some customers. We have a few locations in the surrounding area, a few 30 minutes, 35 minutes north, and a couple about the same direction or distance west of here. So my twin brother and I are the operators, and we've been doing this for almost 20 years now. And we're looking forward to the chance to be in Hopkinton.
Great, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So as part of the public hearing process, we'll come to the board for questions, comments, then we'll seek if there's any public input. If there's no public input or after public input, we'll close the public hearing portion of the process, then the board will deliberate and take a vote perhaps specific to the license request. Mrs. Ritterbusch, questions, comments from your seat?
Yeah, so it looks like there have been no adverse comments from staff, so everything seems to be in order. And you've had liquor licenses before, it sounds like, in other locations?
Correct.
And there have not been any issues with those?
No issues.
Okay. Then I don't think I have any further questions. Looks like it's all documented in the packet.
Mr. Kisner.
I'll echo that. I was pleased to see that there were no comments, and having been to one of your breweries before, excited to have you come into town potentially.
Thank you for visiting. Yeah.
Okay, so we're all good on public safety?
Yes.
Right? Are there any violations in your organization's past, liquor license violations in particular?
I don't believe so.
Any fines?
No fine.
Any suspensions of the license?
No suspension.
Okay. Have you guys ever had a sting operation in one of your establishments?
They do inspect. Some communities are more active, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Where they come in and do their, I'm not sure what the public safety in Hopkinton's like, but they'll do the, they come in, they usually sometimes have high school students come in or college kids and do undercover work. And
The police academy students. The police academy students come.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very active, which we like to see. Sometimes we'll even tell the kid on the way out, when you come into a microbrewery, don't ask for a Bud Light, just, ask for a regular ale to try to trick these. But no, joking aside, with just the usual protocols that happen annually.
Yeah. And I know the questions are a little bit awkward, but they're for a reason.
Oh, no, absolutely.
And FYI, the town of Hopkinton does all the things you just described.
Yeah.
So, and we expect the police team to do that. And we've had some violations in Hopkinton in recent years, and we have suspended licenses for periods of time in recent years. We don't like to do that, but we take it very seriously, so we trust that you do as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We don't like it either. So very strict policies with all that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Any other questions, comments from the board before we go to the public?
No, I mean, I guess just, we're excited to have another restaurant in town. We always, we'd like to have more, and that site's been kind of vacant for a while, so we're looking forward to trying it.
All set? Elaine, any questions, comments from your seat?
No, all set?
Lance, anything?
No comments.
Okay, great. All right, with that, the chair will entertain any public comment from anyone that would like to ask questions during this public hearing. Please come forward. Seeing none in the room. Any online? Ben, is there anyone online that has their hand raised around this public hearing, please?
Through the chair, I am not seeing any raised hands.
Okay. Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion to close the public hearing for the Concord Brewery 22 South Street victular
So moved.
license and victular license.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Comments on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, the public hearing is closed. Now the select board can deliberate. Thoughts, questions about proceeding with a motion?
I'm happy to make a motion.
Please.
So I move to approve the MGL Chapter 138, Section 12, all alcohol on premises license to Concord Brewery 2 Incorporated, doing business as Rapscallion, located at 22 South Street, and to approve a common victualer's license for the establishment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. Any comments on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous and so carries. Congratulations, sir. We look forward to coming by and checking it out.
Yeah, look forward to getting open.
Great.
Welcome
Best
to
of luck to you.
Hopkinton.
Thanks for coming to Hopkinton. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Take care. All right, we have another public hearing that we will continue now. This is for grants of location for NStar Electric Company doing business as Eversource on Blueberry Lane, and there were several things I read out briefly. Elaine, do we need to put all this information into the record, or can we use the agenda and the packet?
You can use the agenda as a reference.
Okay. Is there an Eversource or somebody here representing those folks? Okay, great, thank you. Good to know. Do we need the proponent here for these?
Maybe online, we should
Is
check.
there anyone online by chance? Ben, is there anyone online for this public hearing?
It looks so.
I'm sorry?
Yes. 1 second.
Okay, thanks. Is anyone out there with Eversource Energy, please? Ben, you having any luck?
Christine Cosby.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is Christine Cosby from Eversource.
Hi, Christine, thank you for joining tonight. We can hear you fine. Can you hear us okay?
Okay, great. Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So we have this public hearing continuance we started earlier, and now we'll give you a few minutes, Christine, if you just want to share what your request is with the board, and then we'll come out to the public and go from there.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we're requesting rental location in Blueberry Lane, and it's in the purpose of it is the first description on the agenda, northwesterly, approximately 1,380 feet south of Ash Street, for the purpose of obtaining rental location, 71 feet of conduit, and it's to provide electric service to number 31 Blueberry Lane. Presently, there is a service there. It was installed years ago when the development was built, but they need to relocate it because it needs to be installed into a handhole on the property. So that's the first application. And the second one is pretty much identical. It's supposed to, we have to also install an existing service into a handhole at number 29 Blueberry Lane. And then the third application is for the new development that's being built called Fitch Lane. And that's the service from the transformer to go through Fitch Lane.
Okay, thank you for that overview. Anything else you want to share with the board? Okay, questions, comments? Mr. Kisner.
Yeah, a couple here. Couple here, thank you. So through the chair, first I want to start by noting the collaboration from Eversource. Within the select board packet today, consistently really nice responses from Eversource to feedback and questions from the town. That's the exact relationship that I'm looking to see from our partners, so thank you for that. This may be more accurately addressed at our internal staff, but I'll ask it anyway. So within the deck, there was some notes that there were concerns around impact to existing utilities, specific with concern about, and I promise these are someone else's words, vertical survey data available and the need to potentially subcontract if that was desired information. And I really wish I was kidding, but some talk of something called test pits. So I just want to make sure, have we adequately ensured lack of impact to the existing utilities, given that there was missing information highlighted within the packet?
Before we go there with an answer, I need to open up the next public hearing, okay? So please just hold for 1 sec. We'll come right back to this one. We'll continue it in a moment. But I'd like to go ahead and open a public hearing for a poll petition for NSTAR Electric Company doing business as Eversource Energy on Hayden Row Street. The Select Board will hold a public hearing on a petition to relocate 2 poles on Hayden Row Street. So we'll open that public hearing now, and now we'll continue that public hearing to a time very soon. I'll be right back to it as soon as we finish this other public hearing. So Matt, you had a question for Christine.
Yeah, so I'll reboil it down here. So within the information you gave us, there was a note about potential concern of impact to existing utilities based on a lack of vertical survey data. Apparently, we don't have this information for the impacted area, and if we needed it, there was some suggestion it would require subcontracting or the use of the ubiquitous test pit. So I wanted to make sure that we had adequately ensured lack of impact to utilities, or to better understand if an additional survey was needed.
Christine, is that
You're asking me if
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
you want to know if additional survey is needed?
Yeah, so within the information that was provided to us, it was noted that there was a lack of vertical survey information available, and that typically you would want to ensure, I believe it was 4 feet, so now I'm really outside my depth here, pun intended. But there was some information in the packet essentially that because we did not have this vertical survey data, there was a risk to utilities. There was non-information in the packet as to whether or not the vertical survey data was required or being recommended from you, and no clear decision was presented within the packet provided to the Select Board.
Okay, so do you want me to go back to our survey group and our engineering group to get some more information on this?
No.
Comments?
I would suggest that that's their problem, Matt, not our problem. Like, if their service isn't going to work for them, that's their problem.
It's their problem until it disrupts the service of a customer in Hopkinton, and then it's our problem.
But I think it's for these individual residents, they're getting their service improved, so.
Sure, but if we are potentially going to be drilling down, if we're digging.
We're not doing anything.
If a human being.
Eversource is doing it.
If a human being is digging in the ground and we don't adequately know where all of the utility wires are, there is a potential that we generate unintended impact.
All that's on Eversource. They have to do a whole dig safe protocol. They have to do all those things.
And that's part of the conditions that recommended by our DPW director.
This is basically a pole location.
I'm well aware.
That's it. Nothing else. We don't figure out how they do their pole, how they put it in, how they take it out. That's not all their problem.
Then I would strongly, we can maybe take it offline, but that was a lot of information in the packet, and there was some significant technical concern expressed about the utilization of this data and whether or not it was adequate to proceed with the project. That information was not clearly summarized. So second question then there quickly, Director Reed noted that there was some potential impact here with one of the pole locations, T66 and E66, being near some driveway improvements that the school is trying to make on 145 Ash Street. Can you confirm whether or not there has been a conversation with the school about this?
No, I don't know anything about that.
I'm seeing a thumbs up in the room from Director Reed. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we were ensuring that there wasn't going to be an issue with another project and generating cost rework to the taxpayer.
Okay. Amy?
Yeah, so from town staff, like, are all the conditions proposed here, we think will cover us adequately for, there are some unknowns, but.
Yes, those are the conditions that are recommended by Kerry.
Okay, that you would comfort with us moving forward as long as we add those conditions.
And
Okay.
just to clarify, this is for underground conduit and not for new poles. So it's underground service
Okay.
to the new subdivision.
Got it. Okay. Anything else, Amy?
No, but I appreciate the discussion because it was confusing, the back and forth comments between the applicant and the town.
So it's a public hearing. Abutters have been notified, and certainly the residents at 31 and 29 Blueberry Lane have been notified, right? Okay. Do we have any comments from them in advance of the public hearing tonight?
No.
Okay, good.
It could be on Zoom, I guess.
Yeah, and then we'll go to that next. Okay, so I'm good. Do we have, so with that, are we good for the board's questions and answers for right now?
Okay.
I'm okay.
Everybody good? Okay, so let's go to then the public hearing portion of the hearing. Are there any members of the public here this evening that would like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, are there any members of the public online on Zoom that would like to speak to this question with respect to Blueberry Lane and some locations? Ben, has anyone got their hand up for speaking on this issue?
Through the chair, there are no hands raised.
Okay. And I think with 31 and 29 being comfortable, or at least not weighing in advance, we're probably in pretty good shape. Okay, so seeing none, hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. How would the board like to proceed?
Well, it's a very long motion with conditions that we could read if we're ready.
I'll take the punishment again.
You want to do that one? Okay.
Where am I starting? Strap in. I move to grant permission to construct and a location for such a line of conduits and manholes with the necessary wires and cables therein under the following public way or ways of said town: Blueberry Lane southwesterly approximately 1380 feet south of Ash Street, Blueberry Lane northwesterly approximately 1380 feet south of Ash Street, Blueberry Lane westerly approximately 1380 feet south of Ash Street, Blueberry Lane southwesterly approximately 1337 feet west of Briar Cliff Drive, with the following conditions: the applicant or applicant's designee shall be registered as a utility within the DigSafe system and will be responsible to comply with all applicable laws and regulations pertaining to utility location and marking. The applicant shall obtain a road opening permit and a trench opening permit for this work. The applicant shall coordinate with the police department for traffic management as needed during construction. The applicant shall notify the DPW at least 48 hours prior to the start of work to verify the final location in the field and no public utilities are adversely affected. The applicant and contractor shall endeavor to maintain 10-foot separation from town-owned utilities at all times. The applicant shall fully replace and restore all sidewalk, curbing, shoulder, and roadway infrastructure impacted by this work.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments on the motion?
Thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous and so carries. Okay, Eversource for Blueberry Lane, you're all set to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then finally, our third public hearing, third public hearing that we continued a few minutes ago is for Eversource for, this was the polls on Hayden Row Street. So I believe we have an applicant here. So this public hearing has been opened and we'll continue with the applicant presenting their request.
Good evening, Don Bonner with Verizon. I'm here to talk about the Hayden Road. There's two poles that are being relocated just back, just off the road. It looks like, I'm sure there's a project you're all aware of where they're widening the Hayden Row for the Marathon School. And because they're moving the lanes out, they need to move the poles out. So that's this portion of the job is we got to ask your permission because they're moving more than 3 feet. They're moving 4 feet north and 8 feet east. So just further off the road so that we can make that widening happen. I did visit the site before our meeting tonight, and there's a lot of stakes in place for moving the road as well as for one of these poles. And I did find that specific pole stake for 61 is there, and the measurements check out. There was no stake in place for 66, which is the one going into the driveway for the Marathon School. There's plenty of room there for one, and actually the current guy wire is already past where that pole would be, so that would be moved back, I assume, as well. There is no stake there. I did not want to put one in right now because it didn't make sense because none of you would have been able to see it anyway. And I'm going to bring it to their attention when I get back, let them know that there needs to be a stake in place at the agreed upon measurements.
Okay. All set?
Yes.
All right. So as with the others we just did, so board comments, questions, Mr. Kisner.
Just quickly, I appreciated how clear it was the necessary work that we're doing here as part of providing just digital data, fiber optic, and support into the new Marathon school, into Marathon and Charleswood schools. So thank you for that. It was nice to see that we are thinking ahead here, well ahead.
That's it. Amy?
Yeah, I had a question about the staff comments about the school department's working with the property owner at 145 Hayden Row regarding driveway improvements. Has that been worked out, or is it driveway improvements for the school or for the house next door?
The new school.
It's, okay, so 145 is the new school address?
So the house at 147 is the one that the town owns that will be torn down.
Torn down.
So it's next door to that.
Okay, and what is the comment that says we're negotiating with the property owner?
Regarding improvements to their driveway.
Okay, so when we do this, we might need to improve their driveway after the house is torn down.
CC has been working on that.
Okay, all right, I think that's it. Yeah.
All set? Okay, great. I have no questions or comments. Thank you. So with that, if the board's good, we'll go to the public and see if there's anyone from the public that would like to comment or ask questions during the public hearing. I see none here in the room, and I'm curious, Ben, if there's any online that are interested in raising their hand or have raised their hand specific to this topic?
Through the chair, there is one raised hand.
Okay, we have a raised hand. If you could liven that individual up, please, and they could identify themselves with name and address and share their comments, please.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. This is Steve Munier, one of the owners of 137 Hayden Row. How are you all?
Great, thank you. Thanks for joining. How can we help?
Of course, yeah. So we are the property just south of Marathon driveway, and one of the poles is adjacent to our property. And I just looking for some clarification on the pole numbers. So just a question for the Verizon representative. The number 61, is that the one that you spoke about the first go around? Is that the one that is north of the driveway?
No, it's the one that's adjacent to your property.
Okay, so that is 66. Okay, because in the memo that we received, it was a point approximately 405 feet southerly from the center line of Chamberlain Street. So I believe we might have them confused, that 61 is actually the one that is next to my property. Can you just confirm those?
He's looking at a couple drawings right now, Steve. Hang in there.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can confirm that they appear to be backwards, yes. No. So it's 160 feet northerly of the center line of Hayden Row, of Chamberlain, is pole 61, which is yours, correct?
Okay, perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're talking the same one. Okay, so I'm specifically asking a question regarding pole number 61. And I know that you visited the site just this afternoon, and so thank you for visiting this spot. Did you see the mature trees that are in the vicinity of the new location? There's been ongoing conversations between my family and the Charleswood committee regarding mitigation. And I just want to make sure that the new location is not going to interfere with existing mature trees that hopefully would remain, providing a buffer between my residence and the proposed school light, the traffic light. And so I'm just curious about your, what you think about that.
From what I recall, being at the site, the pole is moving a little bit away from your property line. If you can see where the guy wire is going into the ground, there's a large swath of land there where there's no trees. And it's not moving that far from where the current pole is. And basically, if you're looking from the street left of where the guy wire is, and actually a little bit closer to the road is where the measurements had me. I didn't see, there may be, I don't know how close any of the trees are. I look like I had a lot of land to work with while I was there. So I felt it was wide open, but I don't know how big those trees are because, to be honest, I didn't really look at them.
There is a photograph in our packet on page 221, so I don't know if Ben could put that on the screen. It kind of shows where the new one would be.
Yeah, because in my estimation is that the wires themselves will be very close to 2 mature trees, considering the new pole that is also being moved on my property. And so I just, we have to, I think, consider the impact of the trees regarding the movement of the pole.
That's the one.
Okay, so we have a picture up. Steve, can you see that?
Yes, I can see it. Thank you.
Okay.
And so my concern is you can see between the red line and the existing pole, there are 3 smaller trees in the background that the wires, if moved 6 feet to the east, will have an impact on those trees. And those trees are integral to my property, albeit they are the school's property, so that they provide a natural buffer between us and the traffic and the proposed traffic light.
And those trees were installed most likely during the construction of the school and part of the agreement with the planning board and everything else, I suspect.
My guess is maybe not, because these are more mature than, whatever that was 6 or 7 years ago. There are a handful of trees on the left side of the picture were part of the marathon mitigation. But these ones that I'm talking about that are right behind the red line are my concern.
Okay. And do you have a work order there? Is that what you're looking at, or?
I'm just looking at the petition itself. I don't have the work order with.
You don't have the work order. Would the work order stipulate if there was any tree removal or any tree trimming or anything as part of it?
Tree trimming is often spoken about, especially if you can look at that picture again, you can see where the current pole is. That roadway is going to be going right up. You can see the stakes. Well, I think you can, no, it's fencing actually, but I assume that fencing is going to be gone too, because it looks like they're putting that turning road in, if I can judge by the stakes that were coming all down the road. So this pole has to move out of the way, and I assume tree trimming is probably going to have to happen to a lesser extent, because it looks like they're almost in line with where the new pole's going. But you still need to be safe with the wires. I don't think there's any trees supposed to come down. I don't recall seeing any of that.
Okay. All right, Steve, did you have any other questions or concerns? I think the board has a fair idea what we might have to do here, but are you good for now, or you got other questions?
Yeah, thank you. I think the follow-up would be, and I haven't seen a petition for the relocation of the pool that is on my property, but I wanted to make it known that if Verizon or the board is amiable to a conversation about a different pole that is on my property, I would be open to having that conversation, because I have some concerns about that one as well.
Okay. All right, you good for now?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I just want to make sure if there are any other folks in the public portion of the meeting here. Is anyone else that would like to make any comments? Ben, anyone else out there with their hand up by chance?
Through the chair, no other participants with their hands raised.
Okay, so with that, Steve, are you good in terms of your public comment for the evening?
Yes, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to chime in and voice my concerns or my thoughts. Thank you.
So before we go and close the public hearing, Elaine, what are your thoughts about continuing this public hearing until such time that we can get specific information about whether or not there's any tree clearing or tree trimming or tree removal? And, you know, what specifically is in that work order around that? And then also, if you would have an opportunity to meet with the resident whose property obviously abuts this whole situation and has some concerns, and see if you can't sort other things out. I don't know exactly what that means, but I think we need to do a little bit more due diligence here before we would approve this.
I think that's fine. It's not unusual to do that, to request that, to
Okay?
continue.
So, sir, your thoughts on us continuing this for a week or two, or, well, I guess a couple weeks till we sort it out?
Happy to do whatever you folks need, and if Steve's still online, I could probably swing by his house after this meeting.
Steve, if you're still listening, would you mind a visitor this evening?
Of course, yeah. He can help read books for my son to put him to bed. Sure,
Okay.
yes, yeah, I'm around. If he wants to swing by, it's 137 Hayden Row, and feel free to knock on the door.
So, that's great. So that is my suggestion, but I'm one of three. Amy, thoughts?
No, I think that's a good idea, and, because it does look like, it's hard to tell now, but whether the wires are going to cut into the trees and they'll have to be trimmed too much. And it sounds like it's our property that the trees are on, that the town owns, so we could agree potentially to put some different trees or shrubs if needed, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth further discussion, yes.
Yeah, I think any municipal space and screening is something we should always be open to and consider. Matt?
Yep. No immediate time driver here, and engaged in butter, and it looks like we have someone working to come up with a collaborative solution. Let's take the time.
All right, great. So with that, Elaine, I'm trying to remember now, we would vote to continue a public hearing, wouldn't we?
To a time certain?
Vote to continue the hearing.
Yeah.
Do we have a
So the
suggested date we could continue it to?
Your next meeting is the 17th?
Yeah, I think we could get this done pretty quick, that we could squeeze it in. So the chair would entertain a motion to approve continuing the public hearing to June 17th.
Do you have to pick a time?
We typically haven't picked it.
We have to pick a time, okay.
So someone will make that motion?
So moved.
Thank you. And is there a second?
Yep.
Great, thank you. Okay, so there's a motion on the table to continue it to June 17th. And between now and then, we'd hope that we could get some more information as discussed this evening.
Absolutely.
Trees and stuff, okay, great. So with that, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? So we'll continue that to another date.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, town manager report, and just, I know, Matt, this is week one of the regular stuff. So what we do here is she presents a topic, then we have questions on that topic, and then we go to the next topic. And so there'll be questions along the way with Elaine, as opposed to these other presentations where we let them give their presentation, then we ask questions.
You could tell I was being tortured.
Okay? So Elaine, town manager report, please.
All right, so the first item this evening is just a presentation of the fundraising report for the 2025 Boston Marathon for the town's 50 invitational entries that we awarded to nonprofit organizations. And together they raised $522,796.44 for local charities.
That's great.
So it's very impressive.
It's a lot of money, that's great.
Any questions?
Anybody have any questions about first item?
Nope.
Second item, please.
Just a Main Street Corridor project update. In general, the work by utilities to move wires on poles to other poles or in other parts of the project, make them go underground, is continuing. Working down from the tops of poles, each company goes to the next one and it goes in order. So it's going further down, it's progressing. Over the next month or two, those companies will be down, I think, to Verizon, which would be the last one to move.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions on that item?
Well, I'm just going to comment that it seems like it's been about this status for a while now. Do we think that they're going to really be able to move forward this summer?
I mean, each company is doing their little piece. So for example, AT&T recently finished their piece, and now other, as they indicate, Comtract is scheduled to take 2 or 3 weeks, and then Verizon will follow them.
Okay.
Mr. Kisner?
I'm good.
Okay. You good, Amy? All right. Town council services and RFQ process.
So one of the board's future agenda items for a while has been to understand the options regarding town council and labor council. And so the charter requires the board to appoint a town council annually. and the current appointments expire June 30th. So the board could discuss, you can wait until you have a full board, if you'd prefer, to discuss whether you want to proceed with an RFQ process for town council services this year. And we have prepared a document that can be distributed should the board decide to move forward.
Okay.
It would involve receiving letters of, or proposals from firms and then interviewing them as part of that process.
Is it your recommendation then that we do wait till we have a full board to have that conversation?
Probably a good idea since it's a decision of the board itself,
So
not staff.
my only pushback here would be, I think there's probably, through the chair, I think there's value in us aligning on whether or not the three of us potentially want to pursue this, if only to give staff time. Otherwise, we're meeting on June 17th to try and come up with this, do the RFQ, and then need to make a selection by the 30th. That feels expeditious.
It could be after that. So in the RFQ, I think we indicated that we would be engaging someone beginning of August, but it
Okay.
could be after that too, depending on the.
My apologies. Thank you.
We could carry it over and the existing council would remain in effect and stay there.
That was the clarity I needed.
Per their contract. Okay?
Okay.
Good?
Yep.
Mrs. Redbush, on town council services, you okay with waiting on the full board?
I agree we should wait for the full board.
Okay. All right, next item, please.
And no town department position vacancies to report.
Okay, great.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry, I have questions here then. So within the packet, you have multiple positions listed that don't have a date of confirmation of town manager appointment. Does that mean those positions are no longer open?
They've not been filled yet.
But she told us about them at a previous meeting.
Right, so it tracks.
Well, I'm going to have questions here.
So in September of last year, the board decided that it would review the proposed posting of all town positions.
Yep.
And so we've been tracking those, the date that the board gave approval to post, the date it was posted, and then the date that someone came on board.
And the more recent ones, we've not, it takes a while to go through the interview process.
And for firefighter, it's not applicable because they don't come to the board or town manager for approval, they just come on board.
Thank you. You're reading my mind. That was one of my questions. My other one was around that maintenance mechanic, and maybe this is just my lack of familiarity with town government, but in corporate America, I would never be able to hold on to an open headcount for 5 months. And I have to at least ask the question and challenge a little bit that if you have been successfully operating without this position for 5 months, which you have been, I have to wonder whether the position is truly required. I'm going to ask this question on every single rec I see going forward that goes more than 6 months. To me, that is an indication that the department is doing the work and that the requisition is no longer required. I'd also love to hear what HR's perspective is on this, so I don't think it's appropriate to be having requisitions open for this extended of a period of time.
So I think there's two questions there. We will vote to approve the posting of that position that's open. A position opens up. We will vote, the board will vote with Rule Lang with this process here. Let me finish. We will vote to approve that position, and then it will get posted, and then they will recruit and go to fill the position. If it takes 5, 6 months to fill that up, that's a different question than do we need the position to vote to post the rec. You know what I'm saying?
That's not the question I'm asking. I'm drawing the parallel that if they have been able to operate without it for 5 months, I'm wondering whether the rec still needs to be posted, not whether it should have been posted to begin with. Clearly, the department is making do.
Right, so that's a separate question. Once we vote to post the rec, it's posted.
I'm not challenging that.
Right.
And when budget time comes
once
around,
it's
that could be
posted,
the question.
It's posted. Until it's filled, it's open. If after 6 months it's not filled, the board previously voted to approve posting that rec. So then we would have to vote to reconsider.
And do we do that if it's open for more than 6 months?
We have not done that to date.
Okay. I'd like to strongly suggest that that is a policy we consider when the full board is here. I just would have a hard time justifying the length of time for some of these hires.
Some of these hires are hard to find, but if you want to put that on the future agenda items, when we get to that in a minute, you can do that.
Yeah, that'd be the place for it. And 'cause sometimes we're not offering a high enough pay rate, or there are not enough people qualified for it. And the projects, things are not getting maintained as they should be, and then we're just going to pay them.
I'm totally with you in terms of do we need it or not. I get that.
Yeah.
But the process that we follow is what I'm addressing, is what I just outlined there. And what you're bringing up is that some of these are still open. I get it. But that's on the professional team to sort out and do that hiring. And then if we change the policy, which you're suggesting through a future agenda item, we can do that.
Yep, this was me conveying my concern, but thank you for clarifying.
Good? All right. Anything else on positions?
No.
Okay. With that, we'll move to item number 10, which is liaison reports and board invites. Mrs. Ritterbusch.
Yeah, I'm going to report that I'm going to go to the MAPC annual meeting. I'm the board reps on that, so we'll vote the MAPC budget and officers. That is tomorrow. And then it's a far off into the future, but I'll note that we got an invitation from the Women's Club for a select board member to come to their meeting in February 2026, so we should decide at our next, at a future board meeting who will do that or not. Let's see. I think we should do it. It's a nice offer to talk about the select board in the town. And the CPC is having their quarterly meeting in a couple weeks in June, so I'll attend that.
All set? Okay. Matt, any liaison reports?
Do you want to hear about CIC? Budget approved. Now, when the full board is here next, I would like to revisit liaison assignments, given my ascension to the board here, because I obviously would like to do a little work.
So what we'll do as part of our normal process is, I think it's in a June, or is it a July after the fiscal year starts anew?
That time frame.
Yeah, late June or July, sometime in that time, whenever we meet, which I know is up for discussion a little bit, we'll do liaison assignments.
Perfect.
And at that time, and you could share that document with Matt now if you wanted to, or Vasuda could share the document and he could start looking at it. There'll be other people that have interest in things, and so we hash that out at that time and we will assign some folks. I do know of one, so anything else in terms of liaisons?
No, thank you.
Okay. I do know of one situation that we got to try and figure out. I guess it's going to play out in the same time frame, but the MWRA is looking for participation. And MWRTA, sorry, excuse me. MWRTA, please put that in a moment.
That was Mary Jo's. That was Mary Jo's role, but now they're emailing all of us.
That's the Metro West Regional Transit Authority. That is another board. This board appoints somebody to serve on that board. I know that Mr. Manon is interested in that, just because I know he's interested in it. But we have to fill that as soon as we can, right? That has been done in the past by the chair. I served on that board for about 7 years at different times. I know that our vice chair served on it last year. So we can kind of figure that out, but that's one that we have to get some attention on.
We do have daytime meetings.
And that is generally an 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock meeting, if I remember correctly, once a quarter. It's not a huge time in terms of going, but those quarters start to come around pretty quick if you're going down there in the middle of the day and your boss is saying where you're going. Okay, so I don't have anything else on the liaison side at this time. Next item on the agenda, future board agenda items. We have things here that we've covered in the past year. We've tackled some of it. We haven't finished some of it for various reasons. Is there anything anybody, and we just talked about the town council and labor and so forth, labor council discussion. Is there anybody that wants to add anything to the future board agenda item list? Mr. Kisner.
Yeah, so pursuant to our discussion, I would like to add a future agenda item around the requisition review and maintenance process. I'd like to better understand both the HR policy and our own oversight and review mechanism of the extended life on some of these.
Okay, noted. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Mrs. Ritterbusch.
I don't think so. I don't see anything new to be added this time.
Okay, great. Thank you. I would have nothing to add to the future board agenda items list at this time. All right. With that, Elaine, do you have any clarity on upcoming select board meeting dates yet?
I don't think there's a date in July where all members can attend, so the chair will have to.
Chair will have to pick the best of the best.
Correct. But we still have a meeting on the 17th.
Okay. Got it. All right.
Can I request, though, that when you find out, can you email us? Because, I'm holding that date because I think we have a meeting, but I might go somewhere if you're not having a meeting.
Fair.
All right. With that, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right.
There are many things to say.